This is the GPL podcast, part of the Pull Tab Sports family.
Oh boy. Jupe making mistakes. I love it.
Freddie, let's go to Cabela's.
Leo, how was your recruiting?
My recruiting, I probably had 76 D1 offers.
Now, here's Jupiter and Vigo. Good evening and welcome to the GPL podcast, episode number 296. Not a bad weekend, Vigs. Not a bad weekend at all. A couple close games, a win and a loss against Penn State.
I think if you're wanting to be on the positive side, they played well for most of the weekend. You know, this was a Gopher team that looked pretty good 5-on-5. Their power play looked very solid. They got good goaltending. You know, at this point of the season with this younger roster, I think that's very encouraging against a Penn State team that's been a handful for a lot of teams this season.
Well, we know someone who's been texting us off and on during the season that's been a little concerned, so let's just bring him on right now. John King, back on the GPL podcast. How's it going, Kinger?
I'm doing good. Yeah, sorry about my roller coaster ride I've been on with this team this year, but
well, the team has been on a roller coaster too. I mean,
yeah, I don't know, man. We're either beating North Dakota 5-0 or we're losing to Long Island, whatever that was. Yeah, it's been all kinds of things.
He's not wrong, Vigs. It has been a roller coaster.
Well, and I think, unfortunately, for Minnesota, that's the situation they put themselves into.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about this a lot on the podcast that, you know, Bob Motzko very intentionally stuck with recruits, didn't dip in the CHL. He did grab some guys out of the portal who have been big additions, but then they had to deal with their injuries. And, you know, if the silver lining of this is that guys like Jacob Rombach and Mason Moe can really emerge, Tate Pritchard can really emerge through this process of getting this opportunity, it makes Minnesota a dangerous team heading into the second half. And they just need to string some wins together. This is a program that should make the NCAA tournament. They've put themselves in a bit of a hole this season and have a lot of work ahead of themselves in the second half.
Right before we came on, Vigs, Kinger sent us a bingo card. And one of the items on that bingo card was 174 CHL players, 34% of the freshmen. Kinger, how do you feel about CHL players right now?
I think it's horrible. I mean, my whole fantasy hockey team is American-born players, and I lose every week. I should have drafted Logan Cooley, as a matter of fact, but I missed him. No, I don't like it because it's changing everything. It's pushing everything down into the junior levels. They're not expanding college hockey because all the money's going to football. And I think it's terrifying. I think it's really bad for U.S. hockey players. And I think the blue blood programs, Minnesota included, Boston College, my alma mater, they're kind of like trying to figure out how do I live in this new world? You know, do I grab the lever and start doing this, or do I stay true to what we've always been? And I'm kind of interested in what Bob's trying to do. I like that he stuck with his guys. He clearly has some talent here. Yeah, I'm not a fan. Unless we can get like 10 more teams, you know, give me Stanford hockey, give me North Carolina, if that happens, let's party. But if we're going to stay the same and we added 174 Canadian freshmen, that's no good for the red, white, and blue.
That's a pretty good point, Vigs. You know, we're adding all these players. Some players are getting pushed out, some graduated, whatever. But there is no sign of any real expansion. What was it? Maybe Tennessee State or something like that coming. But really, no signs of 3 or 4 teams that really would need to be done.
Yeah, I think opening the borders to the CHL players and the revenue share happening at the same time really clamps down any possibility of adding teams to college hockey. It's just going to be a challenge for any athletic director. The only ones that really I think could step into that are programs that don't have big football or big basketball programs, or just one of them. Imagine Gonzaga. They could add a D1 hockey team to, maybe compete with their basketball team for tickets, but it wouldn't compete for revenue share. They'd be able to have something there that would work. If you think of other institutions like that across the country that don't have big football, but do have athletic departments that could maybe have D1 hockey, that's a future for expansion, but it just got really tough if you're an American hockey player who's 16, 17, 18 to make junior rosters and to get D1 scholarships. It's an uphill climb.
Well, before we get too deep into that, Viggs 3-2 win after getting down 2-0 Friday night, a 2-1 loss after going up 1-0. It was a fun weekend, I thought, of hockey.
Yeah, fun weekend. I especially liked the way they played on Friday, sticking with the game. We've seen this team have things that go poorly against them. And, Bob says, the dauber goes down. And the guys start complaining about the refs or things that are happening with the other players. And I think on Friday, they just kept sticking to their game plan. And I saw a couple key penalty kills where guys kept their sticks in lane to break up passes going across the seams. I saw guys back checking all the way to the net. On the power play, it wasn't easy for them to gain the zone. They had to have their exits and they had to have support to keep possession of the puck. And they were able to do that and get a goal. Early in the year, they just wouldn't work that hard enough in continuity to make that play possible. But they pulled it off on Friday. And I thought that was very encouraging for Minnesota.
And LJ Mooney was very feisty at the end of the game. And he's one of your favorites, isn't he, John?
I can't stop watching this kid. The fact that LJ stands for Little John and his dad's name is John. I mean, I was pulling up. I wanted to show you this. I don't know why the U doesn't do this. Little John the rapper, right? He's all about these sounds, right? So why don't we get some of this kind of?
What do we got?
Yeah. I mean, that should happen every time this kid scores. He's absolutely electric. He's a water bug. He looks like a squirt player fighting big guys at the end of the game on Friday. I mean, I think he's worth paying money just to see this kid. I love it. I can't wait for World Juniors. He has been an absolute delight, even in an uneven season. Just fun to watch.
Viggs, he's been doing a lot of assists, not scoring as much, but I think that's just bound to come pretty soon here.
Well, as I was watching the game on Saturday, I found myself comparing LJ to McKenna and just seeing the work rate that LJ Mooney puts in out there. He puts in a shift and he still is able to find space to make plays for his teammates. He hasn't quite found the shooting element yet that McKenna has shown this year, but just his playmaking and ability to run a power play, it's such a strength for LJ. And I think it's going to be fun to watch that kind of battle go into the World Juniors, as we expect LJ to be there and we expect Gavin to be there. And it should be fun to kind of watch those two players because I think they both get really involved offensively, but just the work rate of LJ is impressive to watch.
What did you think about McKenna, Viggs?
There's just so much missing to his game that could be there. I just see so many shifts that are nothing shifts. Danny Hype, Project Hockey, is an Instagram guy, and he likes to post shifts of top players and kind of, check out this brain, check out this hockey IQ play, check out this, shooting lane that he creates. He did a shift of McKenna, and it's just floating all the way around and then getting off. I remember one opportunity, he had a shift at the end of the period this weekend where his line mates got an opportunity to have like a 2-on-2 rush. And if he would have busted his butt, he could have made a 3-on-2 and maybe got a chance at the end of the period. Instead, he goes off the ice with 7 seconds left. I mean, those are just things that top talent guys don't do because they know there's only 7 seconds left. I'm going to bust my butt and maybe get a point. And he just does not have that part of his game to round out the talent, because he's certainly talented. You watch him on the power play, you watch him handle a puck on the perimeter in space. It's very, very impressive. And he's got a good shot on top of it.
And funny you said floating around. I was speaking to one of the linesmen after the game Friday night, and I asked him, what'd you think of McKenna? He goes, I like him, but he does float. He tends to circle around a lot. He doesn't want to get as involved, but we both still think it's just he's still kind of learning. Maybe after the juniors will kind of inspire him a bit to actually get involved a little bit more instead of doing all that floating and circling. What'd you think of him, John?
Well, he's super young, right? So,
yes, he is. And that's another thing people can forget. He's 17. Calm down.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if I had gone to the rink to just see him, I would have probably been disappointed, because I have watched Macklin Celebrini come into the league. I've watched Jack Eichel come into the league. I've watched Adam Fantilli come into the league as underagers, and I didn't think he was even in the same class as those players. So I'm sure he'll end up being a stud, but I liked it because I'm a college hockey guy, and I think people think it's easy, or they think they can just come here and, take our jobs and take our women. And I think it's the fact that it's hard. I like that. Hey, they're older than you, they're stronger than you. And but yeah, I didn't notice him all that much. He seems like a power play guy right now. Perimeter.
Yeah, he's definitely a perimeter power play guy. Even if you compare him to like a Logan Cooley, Cooley had some struggles, but I think throughout the year, Cooley chose to impact the game so much more. He would drive play, carry the puck up the ice, use his speed. He was a one-man power play breakout that could just evade everybody and gain the zone pretty much every time. You don't see that yet from McKenna. And I just wonder, how he's going to round out his game. But it's good that college hockey gets this, because it shows to everyone else, hey, this is a pretty good game. It's a good step for guys to have these holes in their game exposed, and they hopefully can solve them as they develop in college hockey.
So we've got a 3-2 win Friday night, a 2-1 loss Saturday, Vigs. Overall thoughts on the weekend? I know you talked to Bob today and John Middlestead. We've got audio out if you guys haven't seen that on our YouTube page. What did he think?
He says guys are developing. He really likes the way Mason Moe and Jacob Rombach are playing right now. They've taken advantage of the opportunity to play big roles this year. And, they're probably going to get more chances as this season goes on. The biggest issue so far for this team is the penalty kill. It is something that is really not working for them. You watch the goals they're giving up, they're giving away the middle of the ice. They're giving away seam passes. They're not reading shooters very well. They're sometimes committing 2 players to one guy. It's just not a strength of this program. And I think it's going to have to be. You can't afford to give up 2-3 penalty kill goals against a weekend. It's just not going to work for you.
Kinger, I don't remember this team being ever so bad they're 62nd out of 63 teams in the NCAA, and the other team is a team that's like 0-10, Mercyhurst.
I've heard you talking about tossing the other Middlestead on the PK. Have they done that yet?
They haven't done that yet. Motzko went to it without me even prompting him on Saturday. He's like, maybe it's time to change personnel. And I kind of pressed him today. It's like, there's 3 games left in the season. When's the time to do that? And it's kind of hard if you get the sense of, let's just finish out these 3 games and come back the second half with some personnel changes. But I think it's just something that the coaching staff is tired of coaching. If they've tried for 4 or 5 weekends in a row to correct some things and they're not seeing results on the ice consistently, personnel is the next change to make. Because I think the systems are sound. Steve Miller's a pretty good coach. Bob Motzko is a pretty good coach. They've done well at the World Junior level, putting in penalty kills. Sometimes the players have to execute this.
And consistency, I think, is the key there, Vigs. We saw against, LIU, they give up, 4 power play goals in a game. The second night they come back and they shut them out. And then same thing against Penn State. They do really pretty good one game. They come back the next game and they don't.
North Dakota, they held them without a power play goal. Notre Dame, different talent level, but they held them without a power play goal. So they've had some moments where it's been good, but you can't have that. It's got to be consistent.
I'm looking at your list here, your bingo list.
I got all kinds of stuff.
Oh my goodness! Well, let's talk about the goaltending. We look at Arian and Luca's numbers, very similar. Kinger.
Yeah, I kind of thought we had a goaltending problem. I guess I was trying to kind of process, but it wouldn't seem to be. It should seem that we could score 3 goals, and they're both over 900 on the save percentage. So I guess my question to you is, how is this thing going to play out? Is someone going to take the reins? How do you think the goalies have been? Because the hardest thing for me this season is we've played well at times, and then we've really had tough weekends, but then the teams that beat us end up beating everybody else. So college hockey is weird. It's almost like everyone's going to be 500 at the end of the year, and we're going to, I don't know, flip a coin or something. But what do you make of the goalies? I don't know who the guy is and who the guy isn't, I guess.
Before you answer, Viggs, I want to kind of bring up a tweet you did today. You're talking about how, was it Penn State, Godowski?
Yeah, Guy Godowski.
And you cannot win without really good goaltending. It's become a really big deal in college hockey. You can't cover it up anymore. So I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I think 900 goaltending isn't good enough anymore. You need to have like a 930 goalie, 940 goalie to have a run. You look at the Wild right now, they're getting great goaltending, and obviously they're winning games. In college, if your goalie has an off night, it's going to be hard for you to overcome that. And especially in Minnesota right now, with so many young players and goals coming in lower
offensive
amounts
struggles too.
The offensive, usually Minnesota, when they're struggling, they're able to outscore their mistakes, and they just don't have the horses right now to do that. And I don't think it's going to be that way at the end of the year. But I look at the goaltending. There's positives with both guys. Ari is the bigger, more technical goalie. I thought he struggled a lot around the traffic in front of the crease and gave away the net quite a bit. He's been better at that. I do think he's lost sight of pucks a couple times and almost given up on them because he can't see them. And he's got to find a way to battle through that as well. Like battling through traffic and screens. I think that's the next level for him to hit. Luca, a very dynamic, active goalie, smaller, more of a game reader. On the games he's been really on, but he's also had nights when he's been off too. And being a smaller goalie and dealing with traffic, that could be a challenge for him. So I don't think either guy has really stepped forward and made a case to be number one yet. I think Aries is maybe slightly ahead, but again, like you can't have those soft goals. You got to be able to fight and see through traffic.
And you got to be able to steal a game. That game against Penn State was stealable to get the sweep last weekend, Viggs. I thought it was.
Yeah, it's not against the rules for a goalie to T-push across and stop a one-timer, especially when you know that that's what Penn State wants to do, and Aries big enough. Sometimes you kind of wonder, is he being too aggressive with his depth and he's too far out from his crease? Because when the puck moves across, if you can't get across and get on your angle, you got to play deeper in the net and hope that you can get there and just buy yourself that extra split second to get across. So he's a big goalie. I know they've been working on some of those things about pushing across and getting big and staying square, because sometimes when they slide across and they go down, they lose their angle. So it's just things they got to refine and get better at.
Has that been a change, Vigo? The 920, 930, the top goalies in college hockey? I remember Don used to just be like, give me a 900. I got horses. We'll take our chances. But is that what's happening if you look around the league at the top teams? Are their goalies clipping at 915, 925?
Yep, it's kind of been the trend. Goal scoring has been, I think, dropping a little bit across college hockey. And I think one thing we're seeing this year, we saw a lot of CHL goalies come into college hockey as well. And it just elevates the position. And, the other thing with college hockey, it's usually quite a bit more structured than junior hockey. And so I think players have to overcome that as well and find ways to create better scoring chances or create scoring chances off of chaos. And I think that takes time with players as well. So you see the goalies dominate when they can see all the shots. Because when you get to D1 starting goalie, if they see the puck, most of the time they should be able to stop it. That's kind of the rule.
So if things don't change in the goaltending area, if they kind of keep back and forth, good games, bad games, whatever, is this something where Bob does bring in Carter Casey next fall, Viggs?
Potentially. You know, Carter Casey's having a great year for Medicine Hat in the CHL, and he's going to get a ton of games. And if you don't have someone step forward by the end of the season, you might throw another guy in the mix and let the two returning guys say, hey, there's another goalie competing for the net, just so you know.
That would be interesting. That would be very interesting because Kanger, we know we've got a spot there. Weiss is graduating. Yes, he's just kind of a practice goalie, third goalie, but there will be an automatic spot there for another goalie.
And I know Casey's hyped. He's a Minnesota kid. Is he a big body? Is he a what? Yeah. So how tall is he?
I think he's 6'4", but he's young. You know, he's a draft eligible this year, so he could still be growing, but he's a big guy.
That's awesome.
Penn State goalie was 6'6" this weekend. My gosh, that's 6'9" on skates. I noticed when he kind of back into the net, he even had a hard time just getting his butt underneath the bar. He was so big. Viggs is looking up the guy's name. I cannot remember his name.
Kevin Reitler, the Swede.
Reitler. Yeah, that's right. Fleming played first night, I believe. Yep. Just a monster out there. Just a monster. And he needed it because, you know, he came up with some big saves, Viggs, to, you know, keep Minnesota from tying that game.
And by the way, I am seeing 6'2" on Casey, but I think I've seen 6'3", 6'4" mentioned. I don't know what's
over 6 foot. I think is good.
He's big.
Over 6 foot. So
we're going to go with 6'4"
when he gets here
in a flannel shirt with an axe.
Oh boy!
Bring him home. Bring him home. We need him.
I'm thinking they should, but to be determined. To be determined. All right, Viggs. Well, before we move forward and get to your top 20 this week, we need to talk about Gateway Fiber on the north side, giving everybody fiber, Viggs.
Yeah, in Minnesota, we're the state of hockey, and a bad internet connection is like a bad line change. Slows everything down, causes chaos, might even lose you the game. And we know that we're on the GPL podcast. We got to have fast internet. We both had fiber, and, you know, it's a great thing to have when you're on camera. So Gateway Fiber isn't just another provider. They're on your team. Visit gatewayfiber.com or call 1-888-2001-4339 to see if Gateway Fiber is available in your area, because life's too short for bad internet.
All right. We thank Gateway Fiber for sponsoring the GPL podcast. Let's go with Vigo's top 20 this week. And you put the Badgers up top, and I think you're right on, Viggs.
I was in the minority opinion.
I think you were. Not many people voted for Wisconsin, but you did. And I think you're right on, even if it is the Badgers.
Well, I think you go on the road and you sweep Michigan State. That's a pretty impressive thing to do. We saw Wisconsin play Minnesota. They look like a very solid group. You know, some of their transfers from Minnesota State, Tassie and Fitzgerald, had off years last year. They dealt with a lot of injuries. You know, they're playing much, much better this year. Mike Hastings has a bit of a formula with how he runs a program, and they're starting to figure it out there, and they're going to be a dangerous team. You know, Brad Schlossman had Wisconsin as one of his top teams in his preseason poll, so credit to the godfather of college hockey. Schloss, once again, was right on something. Hard to believe.
No, hard to believe, yeah. Then there's Denver there. You have them number 2. I believe they number 4 overall in the USTRO poll, but they're still looking good too.
Yeah, they've got the bad loss on their schedule to Lindenwood that Cappy was quick to point out when we were talking rankings. But, you know, I think a lot of teams in college hockey have bad losses if you look at it that way right now. Denver's getting a lot of offense from their back end. They've got a great coach, a little bit of a question mark in goal, but they've played very well. You know, I don't give them too many negative points for going to overtime against Arizona State this last weekend, like some people seem to.
And Kinger, that kind of comes back to what you were saying earlier. This season is just kind of weird. There's a lot of weird losses, teams winning and then losing weird games. It's just an odd season.
Well, do you think there's some Gopher hate too, right? So if you look at us, right, we've beat North Dakota, we've beat Penn State, we've and no, not even a vote. I always look in the others receiving vote, like looking for a little roadkill on the side or something. Nothing. So people are just, I think people enjoy it when we're down.
They're sub 500. They're
I know,
3
but
games below 500. It's
you can't
yes,
tell me
tough schedule.
that the Gophers can't beat some of these teams on the bottom of this list. Come on.
Maybe, but they are also 41st in the NPI ratings.
Yeah, I don't know. They just got to string some together.
That is true.
I think that's the biggest thing for Minnesota to show back up in the polls is to get some wins, increase their MPI rating, give them, more than just moral victories. If they would have swept Penn State this last weekend, it would have helped a ton, I think. So
the schedule they play is insane, though. I mean, if you look at the Wisconsin, Duluth, North Dakota, the Big Ten is awesome, right? I mean, it is a gauntlet. So if you're trying to cook it in the crock pot like Bob is, it's gonna be a little scary from time to time.
You got the Michigan schools there, Viggs. They face each other this weekend. I know Michigan State just beat who'd they beat tonight? Was it Clark? I can't remember. They beat one of the C teams. I can't remember. They beat them 5-2, I believe. I can't remember. It was just Colgate. One of the C teams.
One of the C teams.
Yeah, one of the C teams. So obviously they're up there. Another Western, another Michigan team, Western Michigan. Then it's all West Vigs. It's all Big Ten, NCHC, all the way until you get to Quinnipiac, which squeaked out a win over Holy Cross tonight.
Yep, and they swept Clarkson and St. Lawrence last weekend. They had that bad loss to Yale that was surprising to me. Quinnipiac was quoted as playing with absolutely zero confidence by Rand Pecknold after that game. He really went after his guys in the media, which you just don't see very often. Quinnipiac, they're the favorite in ECAC for like the last 5 years. They will be decent, but Rand has his hands full right now.
Anything else stand out for you on that poll? You got Dartmouth slowly kind of creeping up. I guess we'll see if they play some more games.
Yeah, it's just hard. The Eastern teams are super inconsistent, and they have not done well. They don't do very well in our MPI. BC, BU, very talented teams, a lot of draft picks, but they just haven't been able to really be consistent. They're very similar to Minnesota, I think, but just they're above 500 instead of under. So I think that just kind of changes the perception of everybody. I do wonder what we're going to see out of Bemidji State. They've had some nice wins. They're definitely a really older team in college hockey this year. And, Sartori always does well when he recruits guys to Bemidji.
All right. Any teams to look out for?
Minnesota, they're right there. If they have a good showing here with Denver this next weekend, they could pop back up. It's kind of interesting. Massachusetts, Miami, CC, St. Cloud State all had bad weekends last weekend.
Because they started all so well too.
Yeah, they all started well and kind of tanked. So it's a weird year of college hockey. We look at the NHL standings; they're very compressed this year compared to the last couple of years. I think college hockey is the same. Like you're just seeing, teams that are going to be battling close to 500 for a lot of the year. I think.
Okay. Well, the news, Spit and Chicklets kind of did a podcast recently, Viggs, where old Mason West said he wasn't even contacted by Minnesota. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's certainly an interesting way to go viral. I think it's one of the more talked about Spit and Chicklets college hockey things in quite a while here. Mason West is a great story. Edina kid, a little town on the west side with a dream, winning championships, calling his shot in football, calling his shot in hockey. And first round pick of the Blackhawks, kind of a late bloomer for hockey, though. I think, if you look back 2 years ago, people were still thinking, is he going to get a P4, P5 offer to play quarterback? And it seems like that's what he wants to do. So if you look at him through that lens, I don't know if he fit Minnesota. You look at the recruits the Gophers have coming in the next couple of years, it's pretty stacked with committed hockey players who have, shown that they're kind of at the top of their recruiting class for a while here. And, Mason West, he's a big player. Those guys typically take some time to develop. You look at Charlie Strammel, kind of flamed out in his years at Wisconsin. Now, 3 years later, he's doing really well at Michigan State. You look at Beckett Hendrickson, kind of struggled a little bit last year, starting to find his footing this year, but I wouldn't say he's a dominant player yet. You look at Javon Moore, another big physical player, still kind of figuring things out in college. And you can't have a whole pipeline of guys like that. It makes it hard to be successful. So I can see why Mason West wasn't a top target for Minnesota a couple of years ago.
As an Edina guy, Kinger, how do you feel about Mason West going to Michigan State?
Well, I mean, Edina is known as a football school. And so,
come on, was the first title in like 45 years? 50 years?
I was all conference honorable mention. I basically played for the Crimson Tide at this point. No, here's my insight on and I'm surprised people forget this context. The Gophers had like 7 Edina guys on the team when Bob took over. This was right when things were not good. And Bob comes in from St. Cloud. He's a blue collar guy. We got Jimmy Clark, nice player, big fan of Jimmy. But I think all that stuff's connected. I mean, when he got into the program, I think we had 6 or 7 Hornets on the team at one time. Remember all those guys? It was just, Edina Metro, right? And so, but I think he's an awesome player. When I watched him in the tournament last year, and he almost single-handedly, got to that Moorhead team with the hat trick, and that was a special team. I hope Mason comes back. You're looking at what's happened in Moorhead, all these kids splitting from the CHL and Detroit, and they're coming home to play. St. Thomas is stacked. Hill Murray is stacked. I would love nothing more than Mason West just goes, you know what, Bill at home, Fargo, soggy subs. No, I'm Mr. West. Cut this and put it on the internet. Hey, Mason, you are a big man on campus. You are living a television show. Come home and play another year of high school hockey. What are you doing? You're still going to be there. Michigan State's still going to be there. I don't know. That's what I would do if I were him. But
well, he just won a football championship, Viggs, and the Chicklets were talking about that too when he wasn't even on. How they love the Minnesota setup, kids playing for their schools, for their towns, multiple sports. What a great example Mason West is of that.
He's won a hockey championship. He lost the state championship in football, going for 2. That same running back, I believe, that had the 350 yards and 6 touchdowns, Scadaboo.
Who's the goalie on the hockey team as well.
By the way, since when does a goalie look like Cam Scadaboo? Like, this guy was unbelievable.
And he's also like one of the top baseball players in the state.
Let's go.
It's
amazing. ADM, USA Hockey, get him playing everything. I love it. Yeah. No, I mean, whatever. We missed them. Let's get the young Cullen. Let's get these other guys. And there's lots of good hockey players, but I wish them nothing but the best. To come from a community that's cobbling it together like Edina and just trying to get through.
Those poor Edina cake eaters. Oh, geez.
No, big fan. Congrats on the state title. All my buddies, we were all watching it. It was awesome. So,
but cool. One more thing on West. When he went to the USHL for his after part of last season, I think there were a lot of NHL scouts who were really curious to see how he'd look at that level. We look at sports, when you're 6'6", 220, I kind of expect you to go to the state high school tournament and score 2-3 goals in the championship game. If you're that big, that athletic, that talented, as you go up, everybody else gets better too. And so just seeing how players perform and get challenged at stages like that, I was very impressed with how he played at Fargo. I thought he looked good. I just think that he's a player, if he does come back to high school, he might need to play another year in the USHL before he goes to Michigan State, or it's going to be really hard because it's quite the jump. There have been very rare cases of kids who go right from high school to college and do well.
It's been a while. It has been a while. And that's when teams were younger. Back in the Woog years, back in the 90s, it was more common. Now, not so much.
And it's okay to be patient. You don't have to rush.
Well, maybe they want him for the football team at Michigan State too.
He joked on the show that, if they need a scout team quarterback, if Nightingale lets him, he'd definitely want to do it.
Wow.
That'd be great.
I'd love to see it. I would love to see him if he could play multiple sports in college, which is less common these days. I would love to see it. Just love to see it. So, Viggs, have you been working on your Thanksgiving? You probably have done most of your shopping. You probably have it all done now. You ready for tomorrow?
I would hope I have it all done.
Well, you never know. Sometimes you can get late, but I'm kind of moving into talking about Cub here, and I'm kind of curious. What was on your list this year with Cub foods?
I mean, the biggest thing for Cub foods is when I'm shopping for Thanksgiving, there's certain ingredients that you don't want to be hunting around for. Okay. And when you go to Cub, they've got you covered. I got the fresh thyme, the fresh rosemary, the fresh, all the herbs that you want to get that bundle of spices. I know they were on sale 2 for $5 at Cub. I wanted to get a nice little appetizer tray. I wanted to get some of those Jimmy's dips. I wanted to get some celery, some carrots, some cherry tomatoes, all right there. Great produce section. We're going to be entertaining this weekend at my house. And I went to the Quarry Cub and stocked up because they're local. They're one of us. They support us. They support U of M athletics. And nothing says fall in Minnesota like comfort food from Cub. Shop happy.
Hopefully it's going to be big on Instagram tomorrow. We'll see some of that stuff you've been making up.
Yeah, it should be a big day. I've got the Google Doc now where I have the timing of everything I do for the meal.
Wow.
I had my 8:30, got to take out the Parker's Roads rolls or whatever the night before. So they rise and they get all,
Those are so good.
They're so good. Like you get 44 of them and it might not be enough for 8 people. You have to make an extra batch.
Do you wear an apron or do you put any gear on?
Yeah, I'll throw on the apron. I've got my nice Craftsman apron thing that I've got going with the leather straps. It's good. It's got lots of pockets.
I like that.
Yeah. Well, what are you making this year? I probably get the turkey, but what's coming together at the Vigo house?
I mean, classics: turkey, stuffing with sausage. I know that's controversial, but I don't like it.
No, I like it with sausage. I like it with good sausage. Yeah.
Mashed potatoes with confit garlic in there, a must. I got the rolls. I got the Brussels sprouts with the shallots and a little bit of bacon, a little bit of maple. It's roasted. They don't even taste like Brussels. They're just like vegetable candy.
Yeah, I know, but it's a psychological thing, Brussels sprouts tasted different in the 80s. They did.
Yeah. Stuffing on the side. It's a totally separate dish. It's going in the big Dutch oven. It's cooking separate. I've got the pumpkin pie going. I've got the good appetizers with the Jimmy's, the celery, the carrots, the tomatoes, and then I've got the Norwegian smoked salmon with a couple different kinds of mustard going. I've got some Red Table salami going with some Land O'Lakes cheese, keeping it local there. God. And then, of course, we'll have some great beverages throughout the day. I'm looking forward to it. It's one of my favorite days of the year.
You should put yourself in the top 20 after listening. Top 10, maybe. That I invite me over. That sounds outstanding.
We had people messaging us, during the show last week. They want to know what Viggs is making for Thanksgiving. They want to know. They actually wanted a list they could take the Cub, so they could go get the same stuff.
I've got a Google Doc. Maybe I'm gonna have to start putting it together. The Vigo Thanksgiving.
Oh boy. To-do list. Trouble. That would be trouble. What's your Thanksgiving looking like tomorrow there, Kinger?
Going to my brother's. My wife has been chipping in for my sister-in-law, so she spent a lot of time cooking. There will be deviled eggs. I'm gluten free, which is a hazard. So as I understand it, she made a pie crust out of chocolate chip gluten free cookies, and I'm going to have a little key lime gluten free pie. We got the stuffing, the
I love
gravy.
key lime.
I'm a big gravy guy. Turkey. I think I'm going to try to bring Manhattans as the signature cocktail. So I got to pick up a couple ingredients, but yeah, he's hosting 1:30 start. I like to start early. I would even start earlier than that if I could. But yeah, it should be. It's my favorite holiday. It's the best. It's so great.
I'm a little later because of all the cooking involved, but I also have a good gravy that I do from the turkey drippings because you get the roasting pan, you throw in the white wine, you get
Gravy.
the roux going, you thicken it up. It's a must. You got to have gravy on everything.
And amazing football games tomorrow. Usually they're bad. All right, we got Eagles, Bears. We got Joe Burrow coming back against the Ravens. You got Chiefs, Cowboys. It is a slate, man.
Well, it's always been bad because Detroit's been bad for centuries.
But it's going to be great. All three games are good tomorrow.
Yeah,
It's going to be a blast.
Motor City Kitties are roaring this year.
Not as good as last year, but they've been better the last couple of years. So that's good for them and good for Thursday football. I'll tell you that.
So Kinger, I just got to ask one question on the Manhattans. Are you okay with like a Manhattan spritzer? Because it's a long day. You know, so you take your Manhattan mix and add a little soda water to them every once in a while just to keep the day in bounds.
Well, I'm not a communist. I don't think that I would do that. Oh my God, it's an American. No, I would taper. I like to get out of the gates quick. You know, like a first-time LASIK horse, right? Like just flying, and then I'll just taper. I'll just go into the long drinks, go into the the seltzers, and just kind of ride the wave. But I like coming out. I like to get all warm and cozy, and I mean a Manhattan just tastes like bourbon. Let's be honest. I mean, and I like bourbon, right? So
yeah,
get the good ice. Yeah, I love it, man. I like Woodford is my bourbon. I like. There's lots of good ones, but there's a new Knob Creek Maple that you should try that is outstanding as well. But hey, can I ask you a hockey thing on the CHL deal? So where does this go, right? So I was looking at the top 10 scorers in the country. Plant, Minnesotan. Hughes is from Canada. The other Plant, Minnesota. Corrado, whatever, from Penn State, American player. Horkoff, American player. Flammery, Minnesotan. Haig is a Canadian. But all these Canadians, they were USHL guys coming up the normal path. Gaffney, American. Shimmick is a Minnesotan. Pierre is a Canadian. I don't see a single CHL player dominating the stat sheet in the entire NCAA. I mean, what am I missing? Like,
well, they're mostly all freshmen too.
I know, but like,
I mean, and you look at that list. What a lot of them are sophomores, aren't they? A lot of them are.
Yes. But I'm just trying to figure out, does this settle down, right? Because you start to feel like Doug Woog with the Pride on Ice. We're only going to take Minnesotans, right? Like, how do you look at Clemson, right? So Dabo didn't play in the portal, and he's had a rough go, and it's a very similar narrative to what Bob's been saying. Like, hey, I'm going to stick with my guys. I'm a good coach. It's a good program, but I just wonder, what does this look like? Because it used to be, you knew the path, high school, juniors, college. If you wanted to see, the Olympians, the great American players are typically playing college hockey onto the NHL. Is it going to be just thrown in a blender and everyone's going to Canada to play juniors and coming back down, or what do you think happens?
Well, I think players are going to play for the program that's the best fit for them. They're going to have more options now. They can go play for a CHL team. Not a lot of people want to badmouth Omaha in the USHL, but that's been a very challenging franchise for players to go to the last couple of years. They've had so much turnover with their coaching staff and their management, their owner. If that was your only choice, you just kind of work your way through it. Now, maybe you can go up to Medicine Hat and play there instead. So you have options. So now I think all the junior teams have to be more about providing a good experience for their players. I've seen a lot of USHL teams be like, oh yeah, now we have team meals all the time. You're going to get nutrition. We're going to bring in, a skills coach or a video coach. And I think the same thing is happening in the CHL is they're trying to provide a better experience for their players so that players after high school or midget or whatever are going to go somewhere to play junior. Because I think the biggest impact of this, it's going to be really hard to play college hockey as an 18-year-old. You're going to have to be like a Gavin McKenna or a Keaton Verhoff. Like you're going to have to be like a top 15 type talent to make it and make an impact. Otherwise, that school's just bringing you in early and developing you and taking the lumps for the year. So I think it just extends the timeline for so many players and makes it more competitive for roster spots everywhere.
And Viggs, we've talked about it already this season that, these CHL players will come down, all new experiences for them. They're going to be like, whoa, we are getting all the bells and whistles here. We are playing at much nicer arenas. We're getting more practice, more great food, more attention than riding a bus all over Canada. These guys are going to go back and talk to their buddies and say, hey, give this a second thought instead of staying up there.
Well, I'm sure like Casey up in Medicine Hat is telling guys about college hockey. I'm sure Kwasnicka, is in Penticton in the WHL. I'm sure he's talking about college hockey and all that stuff. But, guys like that, they kind of got to pick their spots where they were going to go. And it was a good opportunity for them to play. And I think a lot of these Canadian guys, they can maybe, if they wanted to go the college route, they could play for like a local CHL team rather than going with a billet team 10 hours away, just because that was the only way they could get to college hockey. Now they get to stay closer to home, which I think most parents would agree is better for the kid. Sometimes maybe a kid needs to be sent away and live with a billet and toughen up and get more responsibility. But I think being close to your family is something that's priceless. And now players are able to do that.
It's still going to be a big wait and see. It really is. Especially with Bob Biggs.
Well, I think when you're a program like Minnesota, it allows you to recruit differently in down years for local talent. If the CHL gates had opened up 2 or 3 years ago, I don't know if you'd see as many holes in the Minnesota lineup right now as they've kind of had to plug into, because they would have been able to establish relationships and figured it out, because they grabbed Leo Gruba from another school. They grabbed Finn McLaughlin from another school. They grabbed DePasquo from another school. They grabbed Tanner Ludke. That's how they chose to do things differently. If you could plan that out earlier, maybe you wouldn't have to do those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's get into this weekend. Heading out to Denver for the Hall of Fame game, Viggs. We found out earlier this week that this game is going to be on Fox 9 Plus. They're picking up probably Altitude or whatever network's covering out there. Stream will still be on nche.tv, so you pretty much need to either do that or watch it locally here. But that's definitely a positive. That wasn't originally on the schedule either.
Yeah, great that Fox 9 has stepped up and carrying these games. They're carrying other programs' feeds, but that's great that they can get them on the airways. Denver's a team that's been on pretty much a roll. Other than this overtime loss to Arizona State, they have quite the streak in regulation going. They've won a bunch of games, and they're getting great production from their blue line. Eric Polkamp was a kid who went to Bemidji and transferred to Denver. He's their leading scorer as a defenseman. He was a guy, I think he's Bemidji's first player ever to play in the World Juniors that was American. And he was, the top player in the CCHA as a D, and he got the opportunity to go to Denver. He took it, and he is just running with it right now. I mean, it's not very often you see a team that's ranked highly where their top 2 scorers are both D. I think they've got 15 goals from their defensemen. And, that's probably one of the reasons why Finn McLaughlin was available to Minnesota, is because Denver has this stacked blue line core that they didn't have room for one more player. So they had to delay him, and Minnesota took him. So it'll be interesting. There's a lot of Minnesota connections on the Denver roster. Hagen Burroughs is on there. Jake Fisher. The other Whipple brothers on the roster there. So a lot of connections there.
I'm just looking forward to seeing Denver play Minnesota, Kinger, because we haven't played them since they left the WCHA.
Oh, I think it's going to be great. You get a little Zeev Bouillon vibes kind of going through, and I think Carl's a stud. I think he's just I've heard him on some podcasts, and I'm like, this is a leader of men. I mean, this guy is running a program in Denver. And I think it's great. It's got that staggered start. So you got the wild game against Denver? Yeah, Saturday. You got the wild game against Buffalo at 7. You get the Denver Minnesota game at 8. I think I love the little double screen kind of switching.
I think they could have done it better though. If they would have done it Friday, I think Minnesota's at Denver on Friday. Aren't the Wild at Denver on Friday?
No, it's at home against Avalanche 245.
Oh,
yeah.
That's why. Well, maybe they should have put it on the road. A Minnesota doubleheader.
But one question, just macro. So say we beat Denver. I don't know exactly how good Ohio State is. We start cooking a little bit here. I'm just staring at this Frozen Four in Las Vegas, for God's sake.
Oh boy.
I've been going to all these other ones, and now it's finally in Vegas, and this is going to be the year that we don't go. And I know the Frozen Four is a long ways away because you got to get to the tournament first. But is it possible, with the Big Ten being as good as it is, that you start? I mean, you're going to have to just sweep people, right? You can't get splits, right? You got to sweep.
I think you're going to be able to split in the Big Ten. You need some sweeps, I think, but Minnesota could be that team that doesn't get above 500 and could still make the tournament. The key for them is they have to get wins against teams like Denver. They have to get wins against teams like Michigan State and Wisconsin. In the second half, Michigan, they're going to have to play well against them. But if they get wins against those teams, it's going to help. And Minnesota's already got great strength of schedule. I think it was number 2 last time I looked. Very impressive. And the Big Ten did very well in out-of-conference games. So the league has a decent chance to get 4, possibly 5 player teams into the NCAA tournament.
That'd be great. I don't want to have to win the tournament. That's no good. That is.
But they got to get to 500 first. So these next 3 games are pretty key at getting to 500 Vigs. If they can win all those games.
Yeah, if they could have pulled off Saturday against Penn State, it's a very different picture. It gets them closer, and to lose that one was really tough, especially the way they lost it. The too many men on the ice penalty, you just can't have that happen.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
Well, I went and watched it back, and you just see the Pritchard heading to the bench with his hand up, and he sees something where he might have to go back and play defense, but the Gophers actually get possession of the puck, and Zemer just jumps on and joins the rush. And that's an obvious call. And
yeah, I was right there in the photo box when it happened, and I was, why you have your hand up? I'm like, oh no. It was not good.
It was heading to a great finish that weekend, but oh well. On to Denver.
They're not playing at Denver. They're playing at is it Ball Arena now, Vigs? I think.
Yep, it's where the Avs play, so it gets the big show building, so it should be fun.
I'm calling for a win. I think we have to make a prediction here, right? Not because I think we will necessarily, but we need to. And and hearing a team described as having all their scoring come from their back end, that sounds like I'm writing left-handed. That doesn't sound, that sounds like what you say when things are going wrong, but you're still winning. So I'm hoping that we get this one against Denver. What do you guys got?
Go ahead, Vigs. Go ahead. Let's go.
Talking to Tanner Ludke after the weekend, this guy has got it. He's going to be a coach someday, I think, after he's done playing hockey. He just understands the game really well. And he was telling me, how the team has started to evolve this season and how guys are getting it and they're being intentional with their play and their positive nature. And I just think the last couple weekends, it's been bad bounces that have been hurting Minnesota a little bit. and putting them behind, and they haven't been able to, consistently come out on top. They just need a night where they don't have a bad bounce and they can just play hockey free. And I feel like that's coming this weekend with the big game in Denver. And I think this is a game the Gophers can win. It's just one game. They can just focus on one game. 3-2 win.
You got me all excited now. I don't know. I'm going to say overtime win. So it'll go down 60% or whatever it is. I don't know what neutral site is.
Well, I've heard Denver's D can't play 3-on-3 OT, so that should be good for the Gophers.
Oh, especially with Mooney running around, man. Let's go.
Yeah, that would be fun.
I'm saying overtime win, which is, whatever in the NPI. Yeah, I like it. So what are the beverages of choice coming up for overtime? This is our Thanksgiving episode. I've got some beverage for myself here. Viggs, you'll show yours off in a bit. What are you going to tease us with, King, or what have you got going?
God, I should go.
He's looking.
Well, here I do. This Vigo will appreciate this.
All right, let's see what you got here.
It's probably going to knock over something. Give me a second.
No, don't do that. Oh, boy. Is that Buffalo Trace?
So this.
Oh, boy.
I had dinner with Booker No in Claremont, Kentucky. He's dead now, but he was Jim Beam's grandson in Jim Beam's house. This is a signed bottle of Beam 7. Booker is the big boy down here. He made me some Cornish game hen when I was a young advertising guy. So I think I'm going to we got to beat Denver. So I think I'm going to sip on some of this 7-year Beam with Booker's John Hancock.
Oh my goodness. That's definitely worthy of overtime. That's more than worthy of overtime. Don't you think?
Overtime is going to be great. We got a 3-3 wild game.
Oh, really?
Faber's on the score sheet. Rinzel's on the score sheet.
Oh, good Minnesota day.
Yeah, so if you want to settle in, let's go.
Well, thanks for coming on the show again. This is your 5th time.
Let's go. I'm like Alec Baldwin.
You get a jacket for this, I think.
You guys do a hell of a job. I love listening. You make me smarter about college hockey. You do such a good job. So I know that I'm speaking for all the listeners, but really happy to be working with you guys. So thank you.
Well, we are definitely happy about it too. I mean, like I said, this is our 15th season, Viggs. We're longer than any other college hockey podcast. Most of them have gone.
We're just continuing to put in the work. We're just a hardworking team.
And it's still fun. That's important. It's got to still be fun. So
if I don't say so myself, we're a hardworking team. By the way, 2 fights in this wild game too. It's like the Norris. So
the Norris.
It's good.
Well, we appreciate having you on. It's always great to be part of your team, and that's gonna do it for this episode of the GPL podcast. We'll be back next week with Dan Woog is gonna join us. We're gonna kind of celebrate the Wooger, about 6 years after he's left this world. For those of you watching live on YouTube and Twitter, stay tuned for overtime. For the rest of you, we'll catch you next week on the GPL podcast. If you are watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and get notified each time we go live or post a video. If you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please rate our show and leave a review. For those of you watching live, you know what's next. It's Vigo's Beverage of the Week. It's time for overtime.